Have you found yourself sighing in front of the mirror today? Perhaps your skin looks a little dull, or you feel like you've gained some weight. Even if it's clearly the same face as yesterday, today you might not find a single thing you like. And when one specific detail bothers you, it can set the tone for the entire day.
Sometimes I find myself pausing when I'm getting dressed. Clothes that fit well last year now feel a little uncomfortable. And taking pictures, I've noticed myself feeling disappointed by the results more often. Others might not notice these things, but for me, it's something that stands out the most.
When we reflect on when these uneasy feelings began, we often find they started with a single comment. These words would appear during our daily routines, perhaps while watching TV on the sofa or sharing a meal at the dining table. It could be a remark about someone's weight or the appearance of their skin, or a suggestion to focus on self-care. The person who made the remark likely didn't intend any harm. Yet for the one who heard it, they might find themselves standing alone before a mirror that very night.
That's when things can start to feel a little different. Perhaps while you're touching up your makeup, changing clothes, or just catching a glimpse of yourself in a mirror. Now, that specific area might automatically draw your attention. Before, you might not have given it much thought, but now it's often the first thing you notice. It's interesting how just one comment can shift your perspective quite significantly.
The speaker may not even recall it. It was probably just a passing remark for them. However, the person who heard it still carries those words. When words come from someone close, they can leave a deeper mark. Since it was spoken by someone who knows me well, it can be difficult to simply let go. The thought, "What if I truly appear that way?" can linger in my mind.
I've started to feel a bit uncomfortable when it comes to taking photos. When someone suggests taking a group photo, I tend to hesitate and not join right away. And if someone mentions appearance, I tend to subtly withdraw. It's almost as if I do it unintentionally. These feelings, it seems, began to appear after a certain comment. It's strange. Looking at old photos, I often wonder why I didn't appreciate how lovely I looked back then. I'm sure I worried about many things at the time, but now, looking back, it just seems wonderful. I imagine I'll feel the same way about myself a few years from now, but in this very moment, it's hard to see that for myself.
But let's take a moment to consider this. If someone you love has gained a little weight or their skin isn't as good as it used to be, have you found yourself loving them less? Probably not. What makes them wonderful is their way of speaking, their expressions, and the feeling of being with them, not the condition of their skin or a number on a scale. So why do we only apply different standards to ourselves? We tend to be quite generous with others. We don't cherish a friend less just because they've gained weight. Our love for family doesn't diminish if their appearance changes. Yet, when it comes to ourselves, we set an ideal of perfection and push ourselves harshly, even with the slightest deviation. It's worth considering where this double standard might come from. It's interesting how we often tell others that things are okay, but then we become especially critical of ourselves. If someone constantly pointed out your perceived flaws, you would likely distance yourself from them. But when those thoughts are happening internally, within our own mind every day, it's incredibly difficult to escape them. Because we spend the most time with ourselves, these critical words can feel deeply impactful, accumulating more profoundly than other hurts. There's a reason why words from people we're close to often stay with us for a long time. We tend to use the perspective of those close to us like a mirror. How they perceive us can influence how we perceive ourselves. So even a casual comment from them can replay endlessly in our minds. It might not be about the truth of the words themselves, but rather because they came from someone significant to us, they might simply feel more impactful.
And from the moment we hear those words, we might find ourselves taking on that judgment ourselves. Even if that person no longer speaks them, we could be repeating those same words to ourselves every day. A single phrase from the outside can become an inner voice. In many cases, the harsh things we tell ourselves aren't actually ours to begin with. Our value doesn't change just because our bodies do. Even if we gain a little weight, or our skin isn't quite what it used to be, or the person in the mirror feels a bit unfamiliar, it doesn't make us any less valuable. However, we often tend to tie these two things together, as if they are the same. Appearance is just one part of who I am, and a very small part at that. My way of speaking, my thoughts, how I treat people, the warmth felt when we're together, these things make up a much larger portion. Yet sometimes, in front of a mirror, we might find ourselves judging our entire self based on just that small part. To change means to be alive. Your body isn't the same as it was 10 years ago, and there's no reason it needs to be. Seeing those natural changes as a failure is where the misconception often lies. The person I am today isn't wrong. This is simply who I am right now. It's common for us to compare ourselves to others. We might think, why are they so lovely and why do I look this way? But comparing yourself to others doesn't quite make sense from the very beginning. You are you, and that person is that person. Someone else's good looks don't lessen your own appearance, and your appearance changing doesn't mean your inherent worth is altered either. While you might find yourself sighing at what you see in the mirror, someone who cares for you sees something entirely different. You might spot a tiny detail just inches from the mirror, but they're observing your whole expression from a comfortable distance. While you may focus on a single spot, they cherish the wonderful feeling you create when you smile. The way I perceive myself can be quite different from how someone who loves me sees me. What you might be concerned about, the other person might not even be aware of it. Sometimes we might view a tiny change as a huge issue, while others may not even notice that small shift. Ultimately, what truly matters isn't how others perceive you. It's about how you treat yourself. This habit of comparing yourself to others, or perhaps being a bit hard on yourself, isn't something someone else will stop for you. You need to be the one to gently halt that for yourself. The only person who can truly prioritize and cherish you in the end is yourself. Let's take a moment to consider the person who might have made a thoughtless comment. It's possible that what they said wasn't necessarily true or intended to be. Sometimes individuals might have their own anxieties about appearance and unintentionally project those feelings outward. Often, those who comment on someone else's looks might also be holding themselves to similar standards. It's not weakness that made those words difficult to brush off. Words from people close to us naturally tend to resonate more deeply, especially when it's someone you care about. Even minor comments can stay with you for a long time. It's not your fault. And at this moment, what's making things hardest for me might not be the person who said those words. Perhaps it's me repeating those words to myself every day since then that's truly making it difficult. It's time to gently pause that repetition for a while. Have you ever thought about how much energy you spend each day on being critical of yourself? Perhaps every time you look in the mirror, take a photo, or meet someone, you find that energy is being used for self-criticism. That energy is truly meant to be used for cherishing and valuing yourself. When you become accustomed to disliking yourself, that perspective can start to extend into other areas of your life. Thoughts might arise like, why am I not good at this? Or why can't I manage that? Self-criticism, which might begin with how you perceive your appearance, can spread to your abilities, your personality, and even your sense of self as a whole. This is why self-esteem, when it relates to appearance, isn't just about looks alone.
If we consider things from another perspective, the practice of being a little less critical of yourself, even in front of the mirror, can gradually change your entire life. There's no need to be perfect. It's okay if you can't fully love yourself or completely embrace who you are today. Instead, we can simply start by being a little less hard on ourselves than today. When you look in the mirror, try to find just one thing that you like. Just one small thing is perfectly fine. Perhaps it's your eyes, looking lovely today, or a hairstyle you're fond of lately. It's a chance to shift your perspective, allowing your gaze towards yourself to begin not from judgment, but from a place of kindness. What you might be focusing on in front of the mirror today, 10 years from now, you probably won't even recall it. But how kindly you've treated yourself during this time will certainly stay with you, in one way or another. How you choose to treat yourself today ultimately creates the foundation for the relationship you have with yourself. Perhaps you've been struggling alone in front of the mirror for quite some time. You may have been carrying that unacknowledged discomfort by yourself, day after day. It was likely a feeling that was hard to express, and yet difficult to simply keep to yourself. I fully understand how draining such emotions can be. With the same eyes that often find things you dislike when looking in the mirror, please take a moment to see yourself, the person who has navigated through today, both the things that have changed and aspects that don't quite satisfy you. All of it makes up who you are. The one who can truly cherish you, first and foremost, is ultimately yourself. It's perfectly okay if there are days when the person in the mirror feels unfamiliar. There might also be times when you don't quite like how you look today. But remember, the person you see in that mirror is still someone who is entirely worthy of love. Your changed appearance, and even the parts you might not prefer, all these aspects come together to make you who you are. No matter how you appear, you are absolutely enough just as you are right now.